What's going on, guys? It's me, Zach, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This one, I'm going to go over a couple players at each position that I think are worth taking a look at on free agency this week. This is going to be the week 5 waiver video, so it's been a really exciting first 4 weeks. It's been sort of a really weird season. Anybody who drafted one of the top running backs, or really any running backs early on, is struggling really bad. There have only been a couple of quarterbacks that are producing. Tight ends, a wasteland, and all the receivers are dominating. But it's really early in the season. No matter what your record is, it's not over by any means. Even if you're 0-4, I've certainly come back from 0-4 starts to seasons to make the playoffs. So there's no reason to panic. Just keep on making sure that you improve your team every single week, and that's what part of waivers is for. Waivers and trades are two of the best ways to make your team better each week. I find that in general, the managers that stick with it and are the most active throughout the course of the season can generally overcome bad starts. And as long as they're just on top of it, you're going to be okay. Just stick with us, and we'll make sure we get you where you need to be. So with that, I do want to take a minute to thank everybody for all the support we've been getting. I think we're at like 278 subscribers at this point in time. Really got a goal of hitting 300 as soon as possible. So if this is your first time on the channel, please do take the time to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and even click the bell so you get notifications when I put videos out. We do 3 videos a week, if not more, but we make sure we get you at least 3. Those main 3 will be the waiver wire video, the trade video, and the start sit video. But every now and then there'll be some additional content I want to get to you guys, and we'll sort of just sprinkle that in there. But yeah, with that, I want to get started with the quarterbacks now. Starting off with the quarterback position, again, it's never really too deep of a list here for waivers, but there are 2 guys I think you can take a look at. First off, I'm going to stay with Geno Smith here. I get it, he's got a tough matchup this week against the Saints, and I get it, he's Geno Smith, but it's really hard to overlook what he's been doing so far to this point. I think he's 6th in the NFL in designed rushing opportunities. He leads the NFL in completion percentage, so we love that. We're seeing pretty high efficiency passing volume out of him, and he's running the ball and getting you that nice safe floor. So I do think Geno Smith is going to find himself among those quarterback streamers you can use in plus matchups this year. He is the quarterback 9 on the season to this point, so he honestly is a quarterback 1 at this point in time. I don't expect that to continue for the whole course of the year. They're going to have some tougher matchups coming up, but they've got really good skill position players with DK and Lockett, and I mean, he's playing well. So if you're streaming the quarterback position, he's a guy that's worth taking a look at. The next guy I want to mention was Geno's opponent this week. It's Jared Goff. The Lions just have an absolutely horrible defense and a pretty good offense. They've got a really good offensive line. They've got a plethora of offensive skill position players that are really talented. They were even missing their 2 best and still managed to put up 45 points this week. So this is going to be a team that's going to have to score a lot of points to win games. I think their offense is capable of putting that up. So you're going to see Jared Goff throw the ball 40 plus times a game, and that's what you want for fantasy. He's going to have plenty of volume and enough skill position players to make it work. So Jared Goff is another guy that you can stream weekly if you need to. Moving on to the running backs here, this is going to be a pretty long list. I don't think there's anybody here that's necessarily a must-add in terms of anybody that's worth spending a high-priority claim on or any sort of high-end fab bids, but my number 1 claim this week would be Nyheim Hines. That's pretty much dependent on Jonathan Taylor missing this week. I'm expecting Jonathan Taylor to miss the game on Thursday. It just makes sense for the Colts to give him the week off. He looked a little injured. He came into the week this week with a toe injury. He rolled his ankle, so he doesn't quite... It just doesn't make sense for them to play him on Thursday, and if they don't, Nyheim Hines should be in line for a big workload. He's going to catch enough passes to be an RB2 this week, so especially with how bad running backs have been, if you need a running back, Nyheim Hines is going to be a good ad. In terms of rest of season ads, though, I am interested in Brian Robinson, Raheem Mostert pretty heavily. Those would be my next 2 targets here. Mostert is getting just RB1 volume in that Miami offense. He's getting something like 70% of the total touches so far the last couple weeks. He's been involved in the passing game. The only weird thing is that we've seen Edmonds get the red zone work, which is really backwards for what Edmonds has done throughout the whole course of their career. So I think that might be just a little bit fluky. I think we might see Raheem Mostert start finding the end zone some as well. So I think Mostert is in line to be a usable player in fantasy just with how good that Dolphins offense has been. So he's certainly worth picking up. And I also think Brian Robinson's going to be worth an ad. He is going to be the running back 1 in Washington when he comes back. It sounds like he's in line to play in week 5. And we've seen Antonio Gibson's snaps decline every single week. Washington clearly just doesn't want Gibson to be a big part of their offense. I expect him to get phased out pretty much immediately. I think he'll sort of fall into that kickoff returning role and be a change of pace back for Brian Robinson, while J.D. McKissic is still the 3rd down guy. So it is going to be a 3-headed backfield there. We don't love that, but if Brian Robinson does take on a very meaningful number of snaps, he's going to have goal line work. He's going to get a lot of carries, and I think he could be fantasy usable. The next guys I'm going to talk about here are going to be Mike Boone and Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray was just picked up by the Denver Broncos after they found out they lost Javonte Williams for the season with the torn ACL. Melvin Gordon has been absolutely awful, so there's certainly an opening here for these guys to make an impact. Mike Boone has been used in the passing game even with Melvin Gordon and Javonte playing. Boone did have two pretty egregious drops in the Broncos' final drive this week, so I'm not by any means saying Boone is talented, but I think he's okay, and it's possible that he keeps that third down role and gets some carries sprinkled in there, so you could see 10 to 15 touches per game in an offense that I still think is going to be good by the end of the season. They looked a lot better this week. Russ started looking like himself. We saw Judy and Hamler make plays, so I think this offense is going to find itself. They're going to get Greg Dulcich back pretty soon as well, so this Denver Broncos offense is going to improve. I think there's going to be running back value there. I'm not sure if it's going to be Mike Boone, Latavius Murray, or Melvin Gordon, but whoever it ends up being could have value for the entire rest of the season. So it is worth sort of just taking your shot on one of these guys. I will also now just bring up some nice handcuffs. I have Tyler Algier, Jalen Warren, Rashad White, and Isaiah Pacheco as nice adds this week. Tyler Algier is in line to get some immediate work this week. We saw Cordell Patterson get placed on the IR with a knee injury just last night. And Tyler Algier had 10 carries for 84 yards yesterday. He looked pretty good. I don't think he's special by any means, but this is a Falcons offense that wants to run the ball. You could see him get 15 touches a game while Cordell Patterson is out, and that's something you can use as a low-end RB2 if you need it. And then Jalen Warren, Rashad White, and Isaiah Pacheco, they all look really good behind their respective starters. I think that each one of them is in line to be really fantasy relevant if there is an injury ahead of them. And for all of those of you in deeper leagues, you'll find that it's hard to find players on waivers that you're able to pick up and play immediately. So I find that some of the best strategies to take there are just to pick up players who are guaranteed a role if an injury happens to a player in front of them. All three of these guys fit that bill. They're talented, and if there were an injury to Najee, Fournette, or CEH, all three of these guys would be immediate must-start players. So they're definitely worth rostering and just seeing what happens throughout the course of the season. Moving on to wide receiver here, my number one pickup this week would be Isaiah McKenzie. He's been extremely involved throughout the course of the season. He's got, I want to say, 3 touchdowns already on the season in 4 weeks. He's been splitting snaps, though, with Jamison Crowder. That's that lead slot position. But we saw Jamison Crowder break his ankle this last week. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. I do expect to see Shakir work in as that backup slot receiver, but I think you're going to see a pretty stark jump in Isaiah McKenzie's snap rate. He did leave the game with a concussion, so check his status for this week, but that could make him an even easier claim for you this week, so you don't have to spend up on him. McKenzie is in line to be the clear number 3 receiver, and maybe even the number 2 if Gabe Davis really just can't get right. So he's going to be a meaningful part of an offense that's going to probably lead or be near the top of the NFL in scoring by the end of the season. So Isaiah McKenzie is going to be a must-add. Romeo Doubs would be the only other must-add for me on this list. He's separating as the number 1 wide receiver for Green Bay, and any number 1 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers is going to be really fantasy relevant. He looks good. I expect it to continue. He's only going to get better as the season goes on. So Romeo Doubs is going to be a must-add for me as well. And the rest of these guys are sort of just stashes for wait-and-see players. I've had Michael Gallup on my IR all season, so maybe you have too. But if he's still sitting on your waiver wire, go add Michael Gallup. He's going to be the number 2 wide receiver for this Cowboys offense. He actually ran a lot of routes this last week, and he found the end zone. And we're going to get Dak Prescott back any week now. So this offense should jump up in their production. CeeDee Lamb's really looking good, so he's going to take a lot of pressure off of that number 2. So Gallup certainly could be usable going forward. And I've got Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney on here. There's just a massive opening in this New York Giants offense. I know they threw the ball like only 14 times this last week against the Bears, but they're going to have to throw the ball some more against teams that are actually going to score points. For example, this next week, they'll play the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be a game where they're going to have to put up some points to win. They won't win that game, but they're going to have to throw the ball to try to. So, I mean, both those guys are extremely talented. They just can't seem to find the field, but if they can get healthy and if Tony can get out of the doghouse, I think one of these guys is going to end up being pretty fantasy relevant down the stretch. So sort of just throw your dart throw. I've got Kadarius Toney on one of my rosters this season, which I've been sort of holding him in my IR spot and seeing what happens. But both these guys are worth some dart throws. Next couple of guys are George Pickens, Josh Reynolds, and Jameson Williams. I think these guys are also nice late stashes. George Pickens did get like a 35% target share after Kenny Pickett entered the game. He finished with like 6 catches for 102 yards. And we know George Pickens is good. So if Kenny Pickett can elevate the Steelers offense at all, and if it does seem like he prioritizes getting the ball to Pickens, then really we could see him maybe even emerge as the number 1 wide receiver in this offense, and that's going to be something that's fantasy relevant. Josh Reynolds, he looked really good with Amon-Ra and DJ Chark missing this last week. I think that there is a world that exists where Amon-Ra misses week 5 as well. It just sort of makes sense to the Lions to do that with their week 6 bye. So if that happens, Josh Reynolds certainly could be in line for another good week. And then Jameson Williams is a guy that I've had stashed on my IR in a league or 2 so far as well. There's no official report on this, but it just makes a lot of sense for them to hold him out through week 6. They've got their bye in week 6, and then to play Jameson Williams in week 7. That would be really awesome because we've seen this Lions offense is certainly capable of putting up a lot of points. And we know Jameson Williams is extremely talented. He probably would have been the first wide receiver off the board had he not been injured in college. So I really think Jameson Williams has a shot to have one of one of those sort of signature second half rookie season breakouts, and he's got the right situation for it. He's got an offense throwing the ball a ton, a defense is horrible, so they're going to score a ton of points to win games, and Jameson Williams is going to certainly be able to take the top off. I think he's going to be a guy that could really help elevate your roster as the season ends. Finally, we're going to go over a couple of tight ends here. Again, the tight end position is another one that's generally pretty tough, but two guys I would be prioritizing adding this week are going to be Robert Tonyan and Tyler Conklin. Robert Tonyan finally found the end zone this week. He's finally getting back into the fold with this Packers offense, and there's a real opportunity for him to be the number 2 target behind Dobbs and these running backs as well. So he's just going to be an integral part of this Packers offense. He's had a spiked year before with touchdowns, so a world does exist where Tonyan finds the end zone plenty throughout the course of the season, and when you get past the elite tight ends, that's really what we're looking for, is just a guy that can fall in the end zone. So Tonyan fits the bill there. And then Tyler Conklin's another guy I'm interested in. He's been really good for the start of the season here. The Jets are a team that are just having to throw the ball a ton because they're giving up a lot of points, and they can't really run the ball very effectively right now. So Conklin's getting a lot of targets, and it's hard to find tight ends that are getting volume, and he's been good with it. So Conklin's going to be a guy that if you're not in line with one of those top-tier tight ends, he's a guy that you can pick up and probably just start from here on out. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.